We're back. We're back. I had some pizza. It was great. You know when you're like really, 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 really hungry and you're like you have no food in the house and you know that Domino's is right down the street and it'll be here in 10 minutes. And then it gets here and it's still so hot because it just gotten taken out of the oven. And it's the most delicious thing in the world. And I'm feeling satiated right now. It was not no, 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 terrorism. Mm-mm. No, no. We just went all with like standard pepperoni tonight. I wasn't feeling fancy. Just a lot of pepperoni, really good cheese, feta. It's good. Anyway, welcome to DISENRAGE, guys. Normally, so DISENRAGE is a show that I'm kind of rebooting, and we've had a couple episodes with my new co-host Jennifer. And Jennifer's on vacation, and so I thought I would take the opportunity to do something I wanted to do anyway without getting Jennifer in trouble. And DISENRAGE, just so everyone is clear, DISENRAGE is not about politics. It's not about culture. It's about the world of woo. It's about things that make me happy. It's about crazy spiritual beliefs and meditations and manifestations and magic and aliens and healing and crystals and tarot cards and all the things that make me happy, because sometimes we need to do things just for us and sometimes we need to do things that just make us happy. Okay. And Jennifer is usually here on Tuesday nights with me at 9 o'clock, but Jennifer is on vacation. But that's okay because I had something else I wanted to do anyway. I wanted to watch an Afterlife interview. And so to answer the questions, is this a real channeling session? Well, it's not a live channeling session, and you'll be able to judge whether or not it's real, but there's this YouTube channel, and this was probably the first ever YouTube channel that I was actually really into. And I like when I first started watching this, like I wasn't into like politics. I didn't know who any of the political people were. I didn't know any of that. I was watching this channel called Channeling Eric. And this channel is run by a mom whose son committed suicide. And she works with all sorts of mediums to channel her son, and her son is like on the other side. And you can believe this or not, but we're gonna I have attained some profound insights from this channel. And so maybe it's real, maybe it's not. But her son is on the other side, and it's like one of his jobs on the other side is to be a teacher. And so he is channeled through different people that she works with. And I think they're all volunteers. I think they're just helping her do it. She's just like this normal mom out of Texas that I don't think ever believed any of this stuff. And so she does these videos where sometimes the son is teaching life lessons about like energy and spirituality and stuff like that. And sometimes they do afterlife interviews. And afterlife interviews is when they actually talk to the spirit of famous people. And they do all sorts of afterlife interviews. In fact, they actually recently did an afterlife interview, and I actually haven't watched some of their recent ones. But again, I used to watch this channel like all the time, but I haven't watched any of their recent ones. And they actually do have an afterlife interview with Thomas Matthew Crooks, who was the Trump would-be assassin. But Jennifer made me promise that I wasn't going to watch that without her. So we can't do that one. But they really do have some like really interesting questions, like what goes through Pope Francis's mind. Let's see. Who else have they done lately? Let's see. What other interesting? Raquel Welch. I don't know who this person is. Oh, that Russian guy. The Russian guy that got poisoned. They've got him. The woke movement. Oh, that might be something that's interesting to watch. See what Spirit has to say about that. O.J. Simpson. Andy Warhol. I know they've got Queen Elizabeth. I know they've got Prince Philip on here somewhere, because I put those on my list to watch at some point. I don't think I ever did, but I do want to go back and watch them at some point. Can spirits have sex with earthlings? Watch later. Anyway, so there's a lot of interesting stuff on this channel. I actually saw something when I was scrolling through it earlier that I do kind of want to watch later on this stream. Where did I see it? Hang on. Where did I see it? Oh, anti-Semitism in U.S. college campuses. I kind of want to watch this later. But that's not what we're gonna start off with. We're gonna start off with the big gun, and we're gonna go right to Hitler. And this was actually how I found this channel. 9 years ago, she published this. This was actually how I found this channel. I don't know, someone recommended it to me at one point where, like, they were like, "Carlin, there's this Hitler Afterlife interview you should go watch." And I was like, "Why?" But then I did, and it was actually really interesting. It's a channel called Channeling Eric. Here, I'll put the URL. And listen, guys, again, like, even if you don't believe any of this stuff, I've actually, like, I think that some of the things that they talk about on this channel are actually, like, really insightful. Just from just a general, like, kind of human perspective, like, different perspectives on things, and so I've actually have learned a lot from it, but I wanna watch this Afterlife interview with Hitler, and, like, here's the thing, I'm a little scared because the first time I watched this Afterlife interview with Hitler was a long ass time ago. I wanna say it was probably, like, 8 years ago. Probably, like, 7 or 8 years ago. And so, obviously, the first time I watched this interview with Hitler, I had a very different perception of Hitler's human experience than I have now. You know, things have happened, red pills have been swallowed, information has been, explored. And so I'm actually a little bit scared about listening to this Afterlife interview because I don't really remember what it said. I kind of remember some of the things, but I'm like, "Oh no, is this going to ruin everything for me? Am I going to just like look at all the stuff on this channel and be like, this is bullshit because now I know more about this situation than I did before?" But it also could be okay because um no, actually, Sassy, I did the opposite of getting my hair done. I did not get my hair done, but I appreciate it. Thank you. But I actually think it'll be okay because, this is about like what afterlife interviews are about as it's like the spirit looking at the human experience with the perspective of not being human. And so it's not necessarily this interview isn't going to be like, here are all the things I did and here's what I was thinking. That's not what it's about. It's about a different thing. And so I really, 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 really genuinely hope that this doesn't ruin this channel for me now that I've kind of like red pilled on some of the obviously Hitler was the worst person to ever live. Obviously the Holocaust was the worst thing that's ever happened. Obviously not any less than 6 million Jews died and it was horrible and it was awful and it was the worst event in the history of the world and I'm not questioning any of that at all. I would never do such a thing because obviously like I mean who would do that? Who would possibly? But I just really hope that this doesn't get ruined for me. And I'm a little scared, but we just have to jump in and do it. And so we're gonna watch this afterlife interview with Hitler, and we're gonna see what we think. And I would welcome comments in the chat if you guys have thoughts on it. But please, can we just be chill? Can like, and I know that there are gonna be people who don't believe this, or you think it's the tool of the devil or something like that, and you're allowed to think whatever you want. But can we just try to be constructive instead of destructive? Because I really do feel like, the purpose of like these types of things is not necessarily to be uber critical. It's to get a different perspective on life. And whether or not you believe it or you disbelieve it, like you can still get a different perspective on life that you can, either work into your own point of view or not. And sometimes it's just fun to do something different. And that's all this is. And so that's what we're going to do. And so let's just jump right into it. Well, actually, Spirit Matter, it's funny you say that because that was actually when I first listened to this interview, that was actually kind of how I felt too. I was like, I feel bad for him. And that was in the before days. So we'll see how it goes. And then I want to watch that anti-Semitism one just to see what that says. Look, she's channeling Kyle. You don't even have to be dead to do this. You can also have your higher self channeled. So let's just, I guess, give it a try and we will see how this goes.
Eric, can you go get Adolf in here?
Oh my God. Yeah, he goes, we're really doing this. I said,
well,
yeah.
Is it okay?
Mm-hmm. Done.
All right.
Before he just left.
Oh, he left.
He
was
arguing with me. He goes, I'm not going to go get him. You don't treat him like an asshole. You treat him like a person. Don't have any preconception notions and blah, blah. He's like, he was telling me. No. I was like, all right, fine.
I won't.
I'm letting it go.
I've got some nice questions. I don't have anything mean.
You know? I bet he doesn't really get called in for a lot of things.
I know.
Casually discuss. He probably gets a lot of hate mail.
Oh, poor.
I don't believe they do now.
Yes, I'm ready.
Oh.
He just popped back in. He said, are you ready? Yeah, stop.
It's like, here's Johnny. He comes out of the curtain.
Oh, my God.
So he's there?
Yeah, he's here.
Hello, Mr. Hitler. How are you doing?
He said, fine, thank you. Eric is telling him to sit down.
Okay. What does he look like, and how's his mood?
He's very stiff posture. There's nothing fluid about him. His eyes are really dark.
Okay.
It's kind of like his eyebrows are kind of sinking low, like his eye sockets don't have a lot of space.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that makes sense.
No, but go on.
Sorry. Droopy.
I mean, okay, so it doesn't actually matter for this exercise because this is not, again, guys, you got to understand, like, this is not, if you're not a spiritualist, you may not get this. This is not human Hitler. This is spirit Hitler. And so it's a different thing. It's not, you don't, when you're in spirit, you don't have the same kind of restrictions on you that you do as a human. And so the communication that's happening is it's in a different format.
The eyebrows, that skin above.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he's just kind of looking out. I don't think I've seen him blink yet.
Wow. What is he wearing? A military uniform, or is he?
No, he's dark, probably black. It's a suit, and he has a tie on underneath it with a really kind of high collar.
Okay.
But the jacket is buttoned up, and there's several buttons to it. It's not like a casual suit that we see today.
Okay.
He's shorter than I thought he would be.
Wow. Does he seem comfortable, relaxed, or?
No, he's sitting straight up in the chair.
Is he
very
anxious, nervous?
Are you, no. He told me no.
Oh, good. All right. Well, let's start with the questions then. Tell me about your childhood. Did it have anything to do with?
And again, I would welcome for people who might know more about Hitler's actual life in the chat. If you guys have questions, like comments, like please let me know if any of this resonates. But just don't be dicks, okay?
The things that the atrocities. I'm sorry I had to say that you committed here on the earthly plane.
Every man's life's actions are based on how he was created.
Okay.
Oh, Eric goes, so is that a yes? And you know what's interesting? Eric is sitting on my side of the room.
Okay.
He's next to me. Commonly, he stands next to the person we're interviewing or sits right next to them. But I just noticed he's on the same side of the room as I am.
Why is that, Eric?
I almost feel like we're interrogating him.
Oh.
He said he didn't realize he did it.
Is Hitler in heaven or hell? I don't believe hell exists. I believe hell is a man-made thing to scare people, to control them. And so what I believe and what they believe is that we all go to the same place. You can call it heaven if you want. I'll refer to it as heaven if I'm being trolly, but I believe literally everyone goes to the same place because like what was just said is in terms of like you are created to do something in this lifetime. Like I believe that all of this was set up and agreed upon before any of the people involved in the Holocaust were born. And so there was, and again, this gets me in trouble, but this is what I believe, and I don't think there's anything hateful about it. There was a reason that that event, for the greater awareness of the collective, which we might not ever know the specific reason, but there was some reason that all of those different spirits, the people involved in the Holocaust, from Hitler to everyone in Germany, to everyone in the United States that was in the war, to everyone in the camps, like there was a reason that all of these spirits came to Earth at the same time to participate in that event. And when you come at it from like a spiritual perspective, everyone makes that choice. Everyone agrees. There's no one, but you don't, when you're born into your human form, you don't remember that. That's not part of our awareness. Okay. But that doesn't mean that on a spiritual plane, we didn't all agree to participate in what I think we can all admit is a pretty impactful event, regardless of your perspectives on it. And so what he's saying in terms of like we're all made to do like a certain thing, he was made to be in the position that he was in. He was made to have this role in this lifetime. Now, I also believe, and they believe on this channel, that we live multiple lives. So this is not the only life he's ever lived. This is not the only life he ever will live. But for this lifetime, this was his purpose. And it was all, and the same could be said for everyone that died in the camps, everyone that was in the war, et cetera, et cetera. So when you're talking about heaven and hell, you're talking about a judgment that's placed on you based on what you do in your human life. But if you come here with the agreement to carry out a certain task, then is God going to judge you for doing the thing that everyone involved knew was going to happen on a spiritual level? That's why I don't think hell exists, because there's some purpose to this. I believe the purpose of life is experience. The purpose of happiness and joy and revelry is experience. The purpose of suffering and depression and despair is also experience. It feeds the collective consciousness. It teaches us about ourselves. It teaches God about the nature of God. To be broken off into billions of little souls that are all having these different experiences allows God to understand itself better. It allows all of us to understand ourselves better. You can't do that if you only have happy experiences. You have to have sad experiences too. In fact, sad experiences, depressing experiences, horrendous experiences where we suffer, the dark nights of the soul, those things can teach us more about ourselves than the happy experiences. So we need people like this. We need people to fulfill these roles. And quite frankly, it takes a rather strong entity, I would think, to be able to be that type of human being. Anyway.
Okay. So your childhood, were there things in your incidents in your childhood that caused you to do what you did?
He's saying that he has an accent.
Mm-hmm.
That he never had much consistency in his family. There was not a lot of beauty. To him, there was much disgrace within his family.
What do you mean? Skeletons in the closet, that sort of thing?
Oh, Eric and I giggled at that. He did not giggle.
Well, has Hitler said anything about that? You've really got to differentiate, and especially this is true for the groypers who might be listening, like differentiate between what the women say and what Hitler's actual response is. And just suspend disbelief for a second and like just imagine that this is Hitler talking through the form of a channel. But you haven't heard Hitler say anything was real or not. You've heard the woman interviewing him, who is a human being and has different information and has a certain experience. You've heard the woman say it is. You haven't heard Hitler say it is.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, this is true. Many lies in the family. He's telling me that he was displaced or misplaced.
Okay.
Within his family. Like, he wasn't raised by, like, two traditional parents. But the mother died or the mother left.
Okay.
So he's showing me as a child he stopped having his mother. I can't tell if she died or he moved. He's not being really clear about it.
Okay.
And that he never felt that he belonged to anyone. So as he was growing up, he said he was very untethered.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't feel like he had a family to lean on, a religion to lean on, nor a country to feel a part of. So he helped create that for himself.
Oh. Was that the only reason?
He created a country to be a part of. That resonates as true, doesn't it?
You did what you did? Or was there some sort of spiritual mission or contract?
Spiritual contract.
That is spiritual contract.
Okay, can you elaborate on that? How it was supposed to help, or what the effect of what your contract was about?
So for those who don't know, a spiritual contract is just what I was describing before. It's when you are coming to be born into this lifetime on this planet with it, like with something that's going to impact other people. Like if you're coming to be, if you have agreed to be born to experience an event like the Holocaust, that is a spiritual contract that you are making with all the other people involved before you're even born, to say, we all agree to participate in this and have the role that we agree to play. And everyone knows what we're doing on a spiritual perspective, but that's called the spiritual contract. So he agreed to play out the role that he was that he played out in this lifetime. Everyone else agreed to play out the role that they took on, whether they were in the camps or they were in the military or what have you. His mother died. Yeah.
It is unfortunate. He's got these dramatic pauses. That the world requires conflict for mass amounts of joy.
What?
Wow.
Mm-hmm. You heard it.
Okay, I'm sorry. I know I'm stopping a lot, but I want to. The world requires conflict for mass amounts of joy. You know how I was explaining earlier that we come here, like the purpose of life is experience, right? How do we learn how to experience things? We have to have contrast. How do we learn? If you have never, okay, if you have never, this is just my go-to example. We all know how great a hot shower is, right? We're actually pretty blessed that we have hot showers, we have hot waters. Do you know when you really, really, really appreciate a hot shower, though? Is when you have a cold shower. Is when you wake up in the morning and your water heater broke overnight and there's no more hot water and you have to take a cold shower. You never appreciate a hot shower more than when you have to take a cold shower. So by contrast, by creating that contrast of hot and cold, the hot seems so much better, because typically we might get up and take a hot shower and be just taking it for granted. Like, it's always going to be hot. We're always going to have enough water. But man, you learn real quick that when that cold shower happens, just how great that hot shower is. I'll give you a relationship example. Say you've had, say you've had a really bad breakup and you're just heartbroken, right? And you thought you had met the love of your life and they just broke your heart and they stomped all over it and it was awful. And then you meet a new person and you fall in love with that new person, and man, does that feel good? Do you maybe appreciate love a little bit more after you've had your heart broken because you have that contrast? That's how we learn best, when there's contrast. So what Hitler is saying in this, we need conflict for mass amounts of joy. The more pain we experience, the more joy we will experience. The more, I guess, like anger, the more fear we experience, the more love we will experience. Because the opposite of love is really fear at the end of the day. So the more bad we experience, the better the good times will be. Does that make sense to everyone? So what he's saying is, the Holocaust was a pretty bad thing, but we need to have experiences like that to appreciate the opposite of that.
I don't understand it, though. They need a lot of conflict. They need conflict in order to have massive amounts of joy.
This is the role I played. This is not the being I truly am. He's talking about unzipping out of the identity that we perceive him as.
Mm-hmm.
So he may discuss this life as if it were third party.
Okay. We can do that. Anything that makes you more comfortable. All right, so you as Adolf Hitler, your life is Adolf, which you are not. You're not that personality anymore. I understand that. What was the effect of that spiritual mission?
It's just kind of weird to look at. I'm glad I'm not alone in the room.
Oh.
Eric keeps cutting his eyes at me like, what? But now there are two images of Hitler in the room. There's the gentleman in the dark suit sitting down. When he was talking about unzipping, he kind of stepped out of himself. The gentleman that's standing next to him, I know is Hitler, though I don't know, he looks lighter.
Okay.
Like, he has soft features. The way he's standing is soft. His posture's not strong.
Oh.
He's not as groomed to a T. So he has more casual. He is wearing a suit, but the suit is open. He's pointing to the Hitler sitting down, and he's saying that this is the man that you wish to discuss. This is the role that I played on Earth. This is what you wish to discuss, though it is so hard to have a conversation through him, because all of the confusion, hatred, the thoughts from all over the world that is placed on his name. He said, I am not sad about this. The people have a right to be angry. They have a right to feel, though I do not regret the role and the contract that I played for the world. This war that... Sorry, I paused.
Okay.
That was me. That wasn't him. It was just weird to hear him say, this war that I created. Like, he totally took it on as a personal thing. He didn't say we. He's not talking about countries.
This war that I created, does that mean anything to anyone? Does that resonate with anyone? Let me know.
I asked him to back up. He's being really kind to me.
Good.
The one standing. The one sitting still just, I swear to God, I don't think that one has blinked. It's just very straight up. And he says, this war that I created has given our history a focus and an example of what to avoid and what to not create. I don't have regrets because of how the world was shaped after it. It made changes that every culture needed to create for themselves.
That does not ring true to me, if I'm being honest about it.
But didn't have the fight or the struggle to make it so. I gave them the fight and the struggle. I knew what I needed to do before I was born and why I came.
Then don't watch it. But I've already requested several times that if people don't believe it, you just don't have to be here right now. If you don't want to watch it, then don't fucking watch it. If you don't have anything constructive to say, go somewhere else.
And I will take that responsibility. I will never veer from it.
All right, so what was the effect? Was what you did meant to create more peace in the world, or?
He just totally interrupted you. He gave respect to beliefs, to religions. It gave culture a way to bond. It gave society a structure to grow and consider people as having rights.
Okay.
Actually, hang on. I want to listen to this again. He meant something differently than what I interpreted it as. Remember, this is the spirit looking back at the human experience. It's not something that would come from the human. It's coming from the spirit discussing the human experience. It's a different perspective. That resonated, though. I want everyone to listen to this, and especially the people who are like cued into like the Holocaust stuff. Like, think about what's being said here in terms of what Hitler did for Germany before it all went awry. You keep whining in my chat. If you keep whining in my chat, yeah, I want you to leave. If you want to stay here and listen, that's fine. But if you keep whining in my chat, you're going to be removed.
He just totally interrupted you. He gave respect to beliefs, to religions. It gave culture a way to bond. It gave society a structure to grow and consider people as having rights.
Okay.
It helped hand feed humanity to get where it is today.
Okay. Now, so that was what you were here to teach?
Hang on, I want to listen to that again. I apologize. I was being distracted by people whining in my chat.
In the world, or?
He just totally interrupted you. He gave respect to beliefs, to religions. It gave culture a way to bond. It gave society a structure to grow and consider people as having rights. Does that sound like nationalism? What he's talking about? Maybe I'm reading more into it, but that to me sounds like it's a reference to nationalism.
Okay.
It helped hand feed humanity to get where it is today.
Okay. Now, so that was what you were here to teach? Is that, or were you here to teach something else? Okay. What about to learn? Were you here to learn anything?
He's telling me he was here to learn a lot of pain.
And why would that be necessary?
Because of who I am on this side, I've never had pain. It takes a strong soul to come through to create such chaos. It is a misconception to believe that only evil can create evil on earth.
Yeah. Okay. So you said you didn't have any regrets. Is that you didn't have any regrets about creating the war? Do you have any other regrets?
I know very much. Oh, that's kind of like translated a little weird. Okay, I know very much people would want me to say how I regret the suffering and the death of so many people's lives.
Mm-hmm. Did you overdo it? Do you think you overstepped the boundaries?
Oh my God. I hear no.
Okay.
It's so funny. I was so worried going into this. I was like, this interview is going to be, I really thought I was going to think this interview was bullshit. And now, like, it's actually kind of based, if I'm honest about it. But it's interesting though, because like, I think some people who aren't like red pilled on all this stuff. No, they're not though. No. This is the thing. The interviewers, the woman doing the interview, she has this perspective about it because she's not red pilled on what this is. But the person responding, the person that is translating for that is doing the channeling for Hitler, is not pushing it, is not buying into it. Was it like, did you regret what happened? No. like like that's actually based, right? And so I think what one of the things I was getting at is like, when I first listened to this before I was red pilled on this stuff, you hear it in a different way. You hear the responses in a different way. You hear it from the perspective of like, you believe this is true. And so you hear the answers differently. But now that I am more red pilled on this stuff, and I'm not saying like I'm 100% red pill, but I'm pretty red pilled on it. Like, I'm hearing the answers differently than I did before. And it's like, basically what he just says, like, no, I didn't do anything wrong. I know, now, of course, again, Hitler is the most evil person that ever lives. It's absolutely wrong to say that Hitler did nothing wrong. But again, Andrew, you have to remember, like, the woman doing the interview, you have to differentiate her from the responses that we're getting from the woman channeling Hitler. Because they're just two different things. They're having two different conversations. They're going like this. You know how, like, when you're talking to someone and they just don't understand your responses, like, you just don't understand each other, you go like this? That's what's happening. They're having two different conversations right now. Let's listen to that again. What did he say? He was like, I know a lot of people are going to want me to come on this interview and apologize. And then she was like, did you overstep your bounds? And he was like, no.
I know very much. Oh, that's kind of like translated a little weird. Okay, I know very much people would want me to say how I regret the suffering and the death of so many people's lives.
Mm-hmm. Did you overdo it? Do you think you overstepped the boundaries?
Oh my God. I hear no.
Okay.
He says this is what he was supposed to come in to do.
Okay. Did you receive any help from your guides in order to create such a mass effect on the world?
Yes.
All right. Now, what was your secret? How did you?
So what he just said is, so so we all have spirit guides that help us, guide us. They're always there with you. Like, if you have questions, you can just ask them, even in your head, like, what do I do? And you receive like inspiration from them, but most people aren't aware of it. So most of the time you just don't know. But like, so what he just said, it like, what the question was, did your spirit guides, were your spirit guides influential in the impact that you have? Because I mean, it was kind of a miracle what Hitler did in Germany. Like, I think what, like, again, before, no, I'm not talking about the camps. I'm talking about bringing, like reviving the society. That's what I'm talking. I'm not talking about the death and destruction. Obviously, that's bad. But like the reviving of the society, the mass movement, the amount of people that just loved him, that was a miracle regardless of how you feel about it. And so what he's saying is, yes, I was spiritually guided in my journey.
Accomplish this war? How did you create it? How did you create these? How were you able to convince the masses, etc., to make this all happen?
Oh shit! Am I gonna say that? Oh my God! No, I don't want to be in that. Can I type that out to you?
Sure. Why? Just go ahead and say it. Come on.
Lisa, I would never Eric. Hold on. Sorry. I didn't mean to make so much quietness.
No, I don't care.
How did Jesus get so many followers? What did he do?
Oh, okay. And what did he do?
It is a charisma. It is an attraction to the person and to the strength of that person's beliefs. It is the ideology of feeling safe and guided and taught. I provided a role that I could take care of this country, of these people, that through this war I would give them the greatness that they seeked. And I found people who would help me. I had thousands.
Through this war, I would give them the greatness that they seek. He's talking about reviving Germany.
Doing my bidding. And by choice, not by force. This is what so many people forget.
Okay. Did you have any sort of disease, mental or physical, that made you the way you that created some of your actions? Yeah.
Egocentric.
Yeah.
I don't know what he's saying.
I was going to say crazy. It made you so crazy, but that's not exactly what I mean. And disrespectful, but that's, you know.
He says, I believe any man who's accepted a role of power lets it go to his head. And if we want to consider that mental illness,
okay,
then so be it. But no, if we ask him technically, no.
Okay. Now, when you crossed over, what was your life review like? And did you have any epiphanies or
So for people who don't know the concept of a life review, basically, like, what I believe happens when we die, and this channel also agrees with this, is that when we die, we have a chance to look over our human life. And it's not from the place of judgment. If you've ever seen the movie Defending Your Life, which is a great movie, it's a super fun movie. I love it. But, like, so Defending Your Life is an old, like, Albert Brooks movie where basically after you die, you go and you sit and you watch clips of your life and you're judged on your life. It's a little bit like that, except it's not, you don't review your life from a place of judgment. You're not, like, you're a spirit looking at a human experience, so it's a different thing. And so what they're talking about is, like, so essentially, like, Hitler died and then he gets to review his life from a spiritual perspective. What did you think of it? Yeah, it's more like an analysis. It's not meant to be like good or bad or anything. It's just about to be like, because again, the purpose of life is experience. And so it's like, what can we learn from this? I actually think about, like, I think about the life review often, like when I'm thinking about, like, what should I do next? Like, where should I put my focus? Should I do this content thing on the internet, or should I go have a respectable profession out in the real world? And so I've actually thought about, like, when I have my life review, what do I want to have experienced in this lifetime? What do I want to look back on and say, yeah, that was a good choice, or maybe I made that choice out of fear, of like, maybe I got over fear to make that choice. You know what I'm saying?
Realizations.
He's telling me he remembers being afraid of death. He said this, he's not ashamed to say out loud. Did he really? Eric looked at me and said he shot himself.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he got shot.
No, he shot himself. Well, I don't know. I'm pretty sure. Okay.
Eric looks at me and goes, nope.
Wow.
Eric points at Hitler and points at himself. He says, we're in a club.
Oh, no. Oh, Eric.
I was like, no. No, I don't think you should
That is
do
not
that.
a good club to be in.
He goes, for different reasons. Hitler said that he did not want to be imprisoned. He didn't want to suffer. That he himself was terrified of that, and that it kept him awake at night.
You mean obviously while he was alive, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
So he says after he died, he just remembers darkness for what he thinks is for a long time. Probably many Earth years. He says, I believed it was necessary for me to help forgive myself and heal myself for the contract I agreed to.
But eventually you had your life review, right?
Well, hang on. I need a better spirit guide, or need to figure out how to listen to mine better. I mean, it's oftentimes just a matter of allowing. Do you know how you might have like a best friend, and that best friend is like trying to give you advice? They're like, I don't know if you're a man or a woman, but I'm going to assume you're a man. And if you're not a man, let me know. Like, say you're dating this girl and you have a best friend, and your best friend is like, bro, she's trouble. Don't do it. But you don't want to listen to your best friend because she's really hot and you want to fuck her. And he's like, no, don't do it. This is trouble. And he's trying to tell you, but you don't want to listen. It's kind of like that. Like, your spirit guides are always there for you. They're always with you. They always want to help you. They always want to support you. Sometimes we don't want to listen. And sometimes we are very resistant to like the information that they're giving us. So do you ever get like that little voice in the back of your head that says, do this, go down this path, try this thing? And in your head, you're like, no, why would I do that? That's stupid. It's the same thing. It's like your best friend is coming. They're like, here's a helpful piece of advice. Go do this. Go try this. But you're like, no, for any number of reasons. You might be afraid. You might have other ideas. But like, you just kind of have to allow sometimes. And like, when it's happened to me, like, for people who know my Trump rally article story, like, that's what happened with me. I said consistently when my Trump rally article went viral in 2020, I didn't write that article. That article came through me. It was channeled through me, and I couldn't not write it because it was in my head and I was distracted and I was like, what the hell? And so I just wrote it to get it out of my system. But it was the same thing. It's like sometimes you get these like inspirations, or you just have this thing that you need to do and it just doesn't make any sense, but you need to do it anyway. It's a matter of allowing and then just like following. Even if you don't fully understand it at the time, it can lead to some really interesting places. Yeah, it's your intuition. Yeah, exactly.
No.
You did not have a life review?
He did not.
Wow, interesting.
Oh, wow.
But when you woke up and you reflected on your contract, did you have any epiphanies? Any realizations?
He says those years in darkness, that's what helped me identify my contract and heal myself.
Okay, I got you.
I played this role for the greater cause of humanity. I did not choose this role and develop this role for self-centering needs.
Okay, interesting. Now, can you share a life that influenced your last one as Adolf Hitler?
No.
Why you won't? You refuse to, or?
I don't really think there's a life. Can I share what I think it is?
Yeah, go ahead.
Like, just from how he's talking and what he shows me?
Mm-hmm, sure.
I don't feel like Hitler's spirit is kind of in the mix of things like kind of the average human. You know, we reincarnate, we grow, we shift. It's more of like, I can't believe I'm going to say this. Yeah. More of like angelic energy.
Wow.
I know.
Is he an archangel?
It's an angelic. I did not remember that. It's an angelic energy. So angels, Jennifer and I were talking about angels last week. Angels are an energy that never incarnates. So it's not an energy that has like a human experience. No, that's not what that means. That's not what that means. It just means it's an energy that it's like a higher energy.
Well, you know,
no, and I don't believe that he's really an angel either. But when I hear angels talk to me about being on Earth, they don't take place in this reincarnation back to back, or this growth thing, or this doing many lives. They have really specific reasons to be on Earth, and so to have, because when you talk about a past life, she couldn't show me really anything. I don't feel like this is his one and only life on Earth, but I feel like it's such a unique contract seed, you know, this gathering of purpose, that there really wasn't an inflection, or it wasn't really based on any other kind of character or purpose or
I see.
development.
I see. I understand. What would the world have been like if you did not do the things you had done?
That's a good question.
Still much separation with races and cultures.
Okay. Anything else?
Hang on. Still much separate. So if Hitler hadn't done what he did, there would still be much separation between races and cultures. Now, that can be interpreted in a couple of different ways. One interpretation of that could be humanity came together in the defeat of Hitler. Another interpretation of that could be that how do I want to say this on YouTube? Another interpretation could be that the end result of the Holocaust narrative led to increased intermingling of races and cultures. Does that make sense? We have more diversity now because of how this event was used than we would have had otherwise. That's just one interpretation. The other interpretation is that in the defeat of the obviously most evil person in the world, humanity came together for the greater good.
My God, he just smiled. He says, I'd like to think I had influence on the industrial area. And he smiled. You could tell that was something he took pride in.
Well, he did.
Design and factory and metals, and he's proud of that. But, you know, when he talked about the war and everything, there was no smiling and no pride behind it. It was designed. It was a contract.
It was just something he had to do, but wasn't proud of. But were you ashamed of it?
He said, I cannot be. I did what I was meant to do.
I see. And do you have any? So do you have any messages for humanity at all? Any advice or messages?
We are in a world today that if you feel strong about your belief, you must stand up as an individual and make it heard. But it is very important to know what needs to be heard. Yeah, your translation is backwards again there. So we're talking to him about how he just translated that. Because he's saying what needs to be heard must be based on the whole. Like, he's giving much imagery with it. So basically, if you believe in something, don't follow somebody else's ideas. Stand up for your own ideas. But the only way that you know those ideas are valuable is if it's helping the whole or the entirety.
It kind of sounds like he just said that, right? Your ideas have to be good for the whole, for the entirety, for the collective.
The family unit you're in, the company that you're in, the state, the government, the nation, the world. It's got to be a united front, not a single front.
Okay. Now, how would you envision
that? Just described National Socialism, by the way.
Envision the perfect world to be?
He said, where there is no hatred.
Will we ever have it?
I see that we are getting close, and I know that the world can sustain it.
Okay.
Just so when spirit says we're getting close to something, you have to take that with a grain of salt, because one of the things that spirit is not good at is time. Because time doesn't exist on the spirit plane. And really, like, you know, and this is like an advanced spiritual concept, not a lot of people get this, but like, time isn't real. Time is a construct that we create in order to make sense of our experience. But everything that has ever happened or will ever happen is happening right now. Now, as a human being having a human experience, that sounds crazy, right? You're like, yesterday was yesterday, tomorrow is tomorrow. And like, so no, not everything is happening right now. But from a spiritual perspective, time is a construct. And so I'm just saying that because, you know, some people might say, like, you know, Hitler's saying, oh, we're getting close to this. Well, that doesn't mean it's tomorrow. That doesn't mean it's next week. That doesn't mean it's next year. It could be 50. He could mean 50 years from now. He could mean 100 years from now, because time is a very, like, spirit has trouble with time. And sometimes it's like objects in the rear view mirror may be closer than they appear. And so anytime spirit's talking about time, you got to like take it with a grain of salt, because it doesn't exist in their realm. They're trying to acclimate to our realm.
So will we ever have it? Eric is asking it again.
Mm.
He said, for this, I don't know.
Okay. Now, Eric, what question do you have?
Eric says, I want to ask one thing. He goes, when you came out of that darkness, did you just look at yourself and say, that was some fucked up shit? And believe it or not, that got the second smile out of him.
And?
He's pausing.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. The quietness again. He says, Adolf says, I know where you are coming from. I understand where you're coming from. But that life to me was no surprise. I was designed for it.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much. Jamie, do you have any questions?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Thank you so much. We've learned a lot from you, Adolf, and see you as a different man. I hope that helps you.
He says, thank you. He says, for you to have a good day.
You too.
And he says, goodbye.
Bye.
And the one sitting down stands up, straightens his pants, walks straight out, doesn't say goodbye to me, doesn't acknowledge me, nothing. And the other Adolf, who's standing more casually, waves. And the one standing kind of had like a tan suit on.
Okay.
You know, it was like, it was weird.
That's interesting. Wow.
It's almost like the world has created so much thought and description of who Adolf should be, even in spirit, that he can't come out from that design, that container, from what the masses of thoughts and emotions have put on him. So it's almost like he's divided himself so that one image can live, so people can put their hatred in a place, or that healing or whatever they're doing in that one location, and he can kind of still be himself and house that, because he's definitely, like he said, he's not backing away from any of it.
Wow, it's interesting. Okay. That's a really good interview. We'll see what kind of response that gets on the blog.
Holy shit. Can you, I just about fell out of my chair when you asked him. I can't even remember the question. And
about about him being like Jesus or something. How did he?
I looked at Eric. Eric's like, holy shit. I was like, I'm not saying it. And he goes, fucking say it. Come on.
He
told me I was being a Pussy. And that's when I asked, can I write it down?
Oh, no. No, you can say it. And it's going to go on the blog, so no editing here.
That's it. Wow. How do people feel about that? I actually feel much better about that than I thought I was going to, because it kind of all tracks, doesn't it? I mean, for those who are like, it's like, it was like, what I appreciated about it was, and it actually kind of convinced me that this is real, to be honest, because I honestly like have never quite been sure with this channel whether or not it was real or whether or not it was fake, because you know, sometimes you want to believe things are real so much, but it's just like, it's like a really good con artist, and like even if it sounds good, like but this actually convinced me that it was real. And the reason it convinced me it's real is because it was like the person channeling Hitler was so gentle in the way they were articulating things to make sure that it didn't just give into the narrative around it. It didn't give an inch on the narrative around it, but it also articulated it in just like a really kind of gentle way that if you know, you know, and if you don't know, it's still open to interpretation. You know what I'm saying? That was fascinating, though. That was really interesting to listen to that again now. So, all right, that's not the only thing I want to listen to. That was the first thing I wanted to listen to. That one's definitely gonna resonate for a while, I think. But the other thing, kind of in the course of all the Hitler stuff, I guess, is this is a more recent one, and I'm just kind of curious about it. Um, so sometimes this channel talks about just higher level topics in the world. And like again, it's like the spirit talking to us about the spiritual perspective of what's going on in the world. And so I have that. Let me see. A lot of people's modern day understanding of National Socialism comes from writings of communism inherently. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm aware of that. I'm aware of that. Anyway, so I noticed they did something about anti-Semitism in college campuses, and I just kind of wanted to see what that was about. Now that we've already jumped off the Hitler cliff, like this can't get any worse, I guess. So let's see how Spirit views anti-Semitism on college campuses.
Hello, beautiful people. If you're here for the first time on our
So
channel,
this is the mother that you heard interviewing Hitler, and she works with a variety of mediums. And I don't know why that they weren't on video for that last one. That's the only one that they're ever like not on video for, but that's who you were listening to. And she's actually a medical doctor. She's like a legitimate like medical doctor. She's not a dumb woman. And she never like in my recollection of this is like she never actually believed in this spiritual stuff until this happened with her and her son.
this is Denise Ramon, whose information will be in the description box and splashed on the screen. And she is going to channel my son, who's in the afterlife, about the campus riots and the anti-Semitism. But first, I want to talk a little bit about Denise. Since childhood, she's a part of our team. There's a tab on atlantiscaler.com called The Team, and she is one of those very coveted members. I just love her. Since childhood, Denise has been aware of her powerful gift of healing. Although she was unsure of where it came from and unable to openly discuss it, she still kept it close. Yet Spirit was not willing to remain silent and reminded Denise, they can be pesters, that her life purpose was to lift and renew her fellow.
I mean, did any of it ring factually untrue? I mean, a lot of the things that were presented in that last Hitler thing were like, they were esoteric, but if it was fake, don't you think there would have been more falsehoods? Because there was nothing factually untrue in it that I know of. It actually seemed to align with the facts. There was no backing down from like, I came here to do this. This is what I did. I don't regret. I know people want me to apologize, but I did what I was made to do, and that was what it was.
Fellow earthlings. Today, with Denise's connection to the afterlife, she's able to bring comfort to those who are grieving.
It wasn't
with divine.
though. It wasn't generic at all. It wasn't. I think the only way you could say that was generic is if you didn't actually listen to it, to be honest. Because it wasn't generic from my perspective. It was actually very, very specific.
Divine guidance and her own patience, Denise is able to craft a tailored wellness plan for each individual, taking into account their unique needs, which is so important. So anything else you would like to add to that?
No, that's good. That's good.
All right. It is good. All right. Let's talk about this. Hi, Eric. I love you.
He says, hi, Mama. He says, I love you. He feels real nurturing today. Like he wants to cuddle. I just feel him just sinking in.
Sit in my
into the
lap
energy.
after this, okay?
Yeah. I just feel him like sinking into your energy.
Oh, I watched a lot of the iMemories videos with him when he was just 3 or 4. So cute. All right. Eric, we're going to talk about the surge of anti-Semitism and the campus protests. To me, I just think this is otherworldly. I just can't freaking believe it. People have forgotten? So what purpose is this serving for the collective?
Well, Eric says it's on many levels, you know.
And again, we need to differentiate between what Elisa, the mother, is saying and the responses given from the channel. Because Elisa, the mother, is a human being having a human experience with a human perspective, where I actually think her audience has bullied her to be more liberal over time, if I'm honest about it. Whereas Spirit's going to be answering the question, but not necessarily in the way that she's asking it. So we have to compartmentalize the two.
It's bringing awareness to what is and what isn't. You know, it's bringing more to the surface of the discomfort, the hate, and all of that. It's bringing that to the surface, which we need to see more of that so that we don't just brush it aside. Because he says we've gotten a little bit numb to things. Some things have become like the norm, he says. And then, you know, of course, some of it is this is what people thrive in, you know, they like this. He said, so of course they're going to get involved because they haven't, it's like he says, they haven't touched base with the calmness within themselves. So they don't know what that is. So this is when things start to get, like, if you want to use the word calm, they get uncomfortable with it. So they're always looking for action, and their type of action is, chaos, drama.
Do you think this?
So what that just said is the college protesters always need to be doing something. They're always involved in something, and it's less about the issue and more about causing problems and having something to do, which is, of course, something we've always said.
This would have happened, Eric, if we had not had the COVID pandemic and people were locked down for so long?
He says, yes, it would have happened if the same situation happened, you know, what's going on now happened. Then he said, yes, but maybe not as so, the way he says is so driven, you know, so intensified is what he said. It wouldn't have been as intensified. But, you know, being that we had the lockdown, people are more into, I'm not going to sit still. I'm going to say what I want to say. You can't control me and stuff like that. But he says it still would have happened. I don't know about as to the degree it is now.
Okay. I just don't understand. I thought it would be the other way around because babies were burned alive. They killed their parents.
Maybe if she hasn't done Stalin or Marx, that would be really interesting. Maybe Jennifer and I can reach out to her and say, maybe we can work with one of your channels to do like a live channeling session on Karl Marx. Wouldn't that be cool? We could do like a crossover episode. That'd be pretty sweet.
In front of them and rapes and all. And here's the other thing: the Hamas, who they elected into power, and that was the last election they ever had. You know, they chose them, and they're using their own citizens. Well, they're robbing them blind, but also they're using them as human shields, etc. So it makes it very hard for Israel to conduct a war that has essentially no civilian casualties. Is there a way? Should they be doing something different, Eric? I want to look at both sides, of course. So,
well, you know, Eric says not one side is 100% innocent and okay, right, and all of that. There's, you know, he says with that.
I think she has actually done Churchill.
Is being told is not 100% accurate, you know. Yeah. So they're only focusing on the he says the gruesome details and all of that. He says that's what the news and media is really focusing on more, which makes it even more intense because we as people are looking at that, and then it helps to keep instigated the stuff that's going on.
So you're talking about the brutality against the Palestinians, right?
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
got it,
that's what he says.
Okay. How can we affect the, I'm not going to say genocide because, this is just war, okay?
No, it's
Of the Gaza
genocide.
people.
Come
What can
on.
we do? Any death
Absolutely
is
a
not a good
genocide.
thing. What can we do to deplete our government spending in this mass murdering of civilization? Stop paying taxes, wait for our government to fail or implode on its corrupt self? I agree. Very corrupt. I'd love to hear Eric's views on this and how we can attune ourselves with light to assist with saving both sides of this decades of revenge, vengeance, war. Well put.
That is.
Mm.
Eric said, just half of the country said, we're not going to participate in this, and, and stopped feeding the government, is what he says. Stop feeding the government.
Stop.
Then they wouldn't
That's
have
great
anything
advice.
to work with.
That's actually really great advice.
And because the government is still being fed. And when I say that, I just don't feel like everybody, from what Eric has shown me, is wanting to feed the government. It's just that there's so much fear typed into that.
True.
And I do
True.
feel like
Yes.
the government has threatened to kill their own
Yep.
if they don't participate or help feed them, is what Eric is saying.
Are you talking about the U.S., Israel, or both?
God, it is so interesting to watch this after being red pilled, comparing it to what I thought about this before being red pilled. Because if I had heard that, like, the government would kill its own before I was red pilled, I'd be like, what are you talking about? The government wouldn't do that. I was so stupid. I was so naive. And now I'm like, yep, that makes total sense now. And you just see it in a whole different way.
Israel, and that yes. Now the U.S., Eric says we just need to keep ourselves out of that.
Yeah.
Because we jump into things because we think we're going to gain power and more people on our side, because there's a lot of fear with our side about someone having too much power, like I guess the Hamas in relations to
horrible
with Russia or whatever he's showing me, having friends with other people we don't want to have friends with. So and then Eric says how we as the US help is not what's helping. We help with finances, we help with military and stuff, and that is not the way to help. We're helping to fuel the problem.
Yeah, we're giving financial aid to Iran, who then trains and supplies the weapons, etc. So it's just a vicious, corrupt cycle. And I just don't think we should be involved in any way, shape, or form. But if we have to, yes. But I think the other countries in the Middle East and those European countries close to the conflict ought to be the ones responsible for giving any kind of aid at all.
Eric says you're correct, and he says they are waiting on us to help. Like
I know,
and so when if we would, yeah, Eric's laughing. He said they are. He says, but if we would just not indulge in offer our services, then this would cause the other countries to say yes or no that they're going to help out. So it's like everybody's riding on our shirt tail as to what they're going to do.
Same with Ukraine.
It is. Eric says, yes, that is, because everybody is waiting to see what the U.S. will do. And it depends on what we do is what they're going to do or not going to do. They just like, oh, yes, pro-U.S., but they're not doing anything themselves. So Eric says we just need to step back and because how we're helping is we're not helping, we're fueling the commotion.
Maybe there's a secret behind that. I don't know. Just thought of that. Popped into my mind. Maybe there's a corrupt reason behind wanting to fuel the flames on both sides.
Of course there is.
There's
an ulterior motive.
We're turning into a third world country anyways.
It's an ulterior agenda, motive. Eric says agenda, motive as to why we're doing this.
Probably shouldn't divulge any of that. Probably would not be safe, right, Eric?
He said,
I have the feeling we shouldn't. When I read the news as peaceful, in the news, no, I'm sorry. What I read in the news are peaceful Palestine protesters, aka students, being shot at by snipers.
Yep.
Is there an agenda to make both sides furious at each other? We kind of said that. Since I don't hear anything about rising anti-Semitism, just anti-far right Israel protesters. I don't know that that's true, but I just don't know. I'm not saying. Is that true? Snipers are trying to.
Yeah.
I didn't think there were any deaths during the protest.
There were absolutely snipers. 100%. I saw them.
I don't either, to be honest with you. I haven't watched any. I mean, I don't even pay attention to the news. But Eric is saying that I don't know that they're snipers. What Eric is showing me, but there are people who are.
Yep. See?
Coming in and threatening is what I feel like. I feel like there has been some violence against them, and it's some of it's orchestrated, is what he says.
Yep.
And I say
True.
orchestrated, I mean, like, it's like it's a group or something that comes in and says something, you know, that does something to the people who are protesting. It's like they want that to happen so that they can come in and it's to create fear and stuff. But Eric says it's kind of doing the opposite to the Palestinians and that who are protesting in the colleges and that, because it just makes it want to evolve even more, get bigger in that.
Very true.
And so I'm asking Eric, how is this different from like the Vietnam War? Because there was a lot of protests back then. Not that I remember, but I do remember people talking about it when I was in school and that. And Eric says the cause for that is different than what the cause is now.
True.
Because we were talking about our people going over there, and this is about our government putting our finances into that.
True.
Into this one, and we don't have any business in there. So what he says they do is, so our government will then start offering to give money elsewhere to the U.S., some other organization or whatever, and paying off college and stuff, to take attention away from what's being done.
Oh, yeah, that's called vote buying. I think it's very arrogant of us to sit there and give military advice to Bibi Netanyahu. He has to do this, and there's an ultimatum, and we weren't attacked. It was like multiplied 9/11 by tenfold or 100-fold. I can't remember. So I find that upsetting. I think we should just wash our hands, and if everything goes to hell in a handbasket, of course, yes, but giving aid to Iran so they can feed this whole thing, and then giving aid to Israel, and then withholding it, and it's just a messy situation, I think.
Yes, and then Eric says, and then it comes to where we as in the government, start complaining about what the other country's doing, threatening us and all of this and that. He says, in reality, we're the ones that given them the money and the ability and the means to threaten us.
Oh my God, yeah. Wow.
So it's our money they're using against us.
Who's funding all these protests? This is odd because all these signs, exactly the same almost, popped up, and all the similar tents, and then in Hamilton Hall, there was a whole bunch of non-students that didn't even belong to the university pulled up in there. So what's going on? I think the same thing happened in the Floyd.
Yeah. No.
George Floyd riots.
Well, Eric says, as he said earlier about there's people who, I'm going to just use gangs, and that's not gang as in gangs, but I'm just using
blood.
Right? Yeah, it's not that. It's just there are a group of people who are coming in to fuel the situation. Who don't belong there. So yes, there are people who are not students coming in there and helping to fuel it, helping to create the fear, and helping to instigate and stuff. And he said, yes, there are people coming in to do that. And it's to,
But that doesn't mean it's funded by Soros. I know exactly the group. It's the Party for Socialism and Liberation, and they're not funded by George Soros. I'm sorry.
to bring, to make news,
To
we
make
can
news.
think it's something else that's going on.
Yep, because they're running a
So,
presidential
well,
candidate.
Nothing to see here. Okay, so
None of that was wrong.
who's is like Soros backed companies or Soros himself
No,
funding some of these protests?
no.
I mean, it takes a
no,
lot of money to
no,
hold these things, right?
No.
Eric says yes and no. He said you'd be surprised who's willing to do this, because it's they feel they feel important. It's like, yes, and it's, to you and I, it probably wouldn't be a lot of money, but for people who are in there, and plus I feel like they're
That's saying it's self-funded, by the way. For you and I, this wouldn't be a lot of money, but people in there, they're willing to throw in to be a part of it. That's saying it's self-effing funded.
promised stuff that maybe doesn't get fulfilled, is how Eric is showing me. And it's like stuff down the way and stuff, but it never comes to fruition.
Right.
He said, I don't feel like it's just one group
See?
funding it. I feel like there are several different pockets.
Okay. Does Soros have anything to do with it?
No. Well, maybe onesie and twosies here and there, but not really.
Eric says yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
How big a degree we don't know.
Onesies and twosies.
What was I going to say? It was something. I don't know. Maybe it'll come back to me. I would like to get Eric's perspective on why the conflict is happening. Kind of talked about. Oh no, I know it's about the university group. Okay, but is it all because of Israel wanting the natural resources such as oil that is underneath the Gaza Strip? I didn't know that was true.
See, that to me says, okay, so it is true that there are some people participating, or it was true rather, that there were some people in the protests that that were funded by a Soros scholarship or something like that. When I say onesie and twosies, it's like grants that are given out to someone in a department at a university for something else that are then participating in the protests, or it goes to like a tiny little center where someone worked, and that's how they're, so it's not to say that there's no there's absolutely like a boundary between, there's no Soros money involved, but it's one of those things where it goes an indirect route, and then it ends up where someone who has at some point received funding gets involved in the protests, and then they say it's all Soros funded. Well, no, that's actually not what's going on. There are some things that are funded, and there are some people involved that are funded, but the much bigger picture is most of it is just self-funded.
True. I mean, so much human suffering and turmoil. Is it really because of the money, or is it because they felt like they were attacked, like Pearl Harbor, us in Pearl Harbor, or both?
Yeah, it's like this. Like Vivek got a grant one time, and then
Eric
years later,
says
they're like,
of course, some of it is.
God, remember when conservatives were so pissed off about Vivek getting a scholarship from like the nephew of Soros or something like that? And they were denouncing him for, like, it's just like the things that, like, it's like when you think back to stuff like that and you see how universally loved Vivek is now by Republicans, and you remember back to the beginning, they were smearing him as being like an agent of, do you guys remember when conservatives were smearing Vivek as being an agent of the WEF? And he had to sue the WEF over that. It's like, when you remember back to those, and I know this is not supposed to be a show about politics, but whatever, we're kind of talking about politics. Jennifer isn't here, I'm allowed. But like, when you kind of see those moments where it's like, these groups fly off the handle about something that isn't even real, and then just a couple of months later, they love the person that they just flew off the handle about because now he's part of the approved narrative. Now he's been brought in. Now he's part of the club. He wasn't part of the club before, and now he's part of the club. You understand, right?
They feel like things have been ripped away from them, and they get it back, and then now it's being ripped away from them again, and they're not wanting to give it up. There is a lot of riches over there, he said, but it's more about some of it. There's not just one reason, but what he's showing me, it's about power.
Yeah.
And also too, I feel like, because he says, if Israel just said, okay, you can have this and let's just stop it. Eric says, but it wouldn't stop there, because then they would come over and want to take more and more and more. So in a sense, Israel's having to stay in their boundaries, or otherwise they're just going to be being pushed down over and over and over again.
Now, these university professors, the UPenn, MIT, I can't remember, Harvard, Columbia, during the congressional hearings, they could not say that it was against university policy for the horrible, hateful things said, like, put all the Jews back in the gas chambers, the river to the sea, kill all the Jews. I'm going to go kill everybody, all these Jews. I mean, that is hate speech. And,
No, it's not.
So why couldn't they say,
not.
yeah, that should not have any part on our campus?
So the professors were saying that?
Yeah, the heads of the presidents. And some professors.
Wow.
They couldn't commit.
Maybe I was wrong about her being
they
more
were
liberal. Maybe
saying
she is
that.
pretty
Wow.
conservative. Yeah, that's like
Yikes.
cringe. That's cringe conservative boomer.
You
She's an
know,
older lady though, so we're gonna be nice.
Kind of like political correctness, maybe, or maybe that, I don't know. But look, a lot of I shouldn't interrupt, but this may be important in what Eric has to say. A lot of the Middle East countries, like Qatar and I can't remember, Iran, maybe they give a lot of money to these universities, and they send students over. They do a lot of send them a lot of dough, and I don't know if that has anything to do with it.
yeah. And first of all, I want to say you weren't interrupting because I wasn't talking.
Okay, thanks.
And because I know people say some really butt ugly comments.
Yeah.
So
who cares?
you weren't interrupting.
Okay.
So Eric says that some of the people who spoke their mind felt like they were protected and that they could say whatever they wanted to say. And he says, you are correct about money being fueled into these universities, because they do. And if we think that it isn't happening, we're absolutely wrong, because it is happening that way. They fuel a lot of money so that
true,
people can come over here and go to school. So yes, and Eric's not going to give me too much information other than that some of the people who make really hateful comments like that felt like they were protected, and and it's almost like, please say this for us and we'll protect you, and they were not. So they did what Eric says, and I don't know this
interesting
for sure. I'm sure you're the listeners, but Eric's telling me these people that spoke like this lost their jobs.
Yep, true.
They were fired.
People who say this, if they are here on a student visa, tear up the visa, send them back home.
Absolutely.
No place in America. Yes, free speech, but
That's
not
coming
hate
from
speech.
Eric.
No.
That's coming from the interpreter.
Well, I don't think we should be accepting money from any kind of country that is not our friend.
Correct.
I don't know which ones those are, but
correct.
Whatever.
But when it comes to money, and that's not just universities, but because we're talking about that, Eric says, the universities accept money from places that probably are less desirable because it funds their athletic department or some, so they take money knowing that this person is a pedophile or knowing this person is this, but because it gives them money and it allows them to
True.
look more
True.
prestigious
So true.
and stuff, so they accept the money, and they aren't thinking about anything else, because the people here that are thinking about the money, there's someone else also saying you need to make more money. So there's always somebody on top of that one just
Pressure.
forcing.
Yeah.
So it is all about the money with that. Yeah.
So we kind of answered this, why our school campus is allowing this hostile behavior. Follow up to this question. Is the hundreds of millions of dollars the school have been receiving from Qatar and other Islamic countries going to always control who they hire and how they behave? Let's answer that one, I guess. Are we going to cut off those funds eventually?
Eric is telling me, he's showing me 2 years. So within 2 years or something, we are going to start seeing some things change and shift in some of these universities.
Really?
Because he's telling me more secrets are going to come to the surface as time goes on, especially he says 6 months after the election, the U.S. presidential election, more things are going to start surfacing, and things are going to have to shift, and things will shift and change and stuff.
Interesting.
Well, here's a general one. Why does anti-Semitism exist at all? Still exist? Why do people hate the Jews so much? I don't get it. Where the hell does that come from?
Let's see.
I was just talking about that today to somebody.
Jewish behavior. That's why.
In another country, about how people hate if you're not a certain color or certain style or something. And
it's Jewish behavior.
It's mind-boggling.
You know what? This lady's the channeler is pissing me off, because what's going on, and I think this might be confusing for people. What's going on is she is editorializing. So the mother is asking her a question, and instead of her just channeling the answer of the son, she is editorializing, and she's inserting her own opinion, when what she should really be doing is just channeling the son's answers. Like, that is her one job. I don't care about her opinion. I'm sorry. I'm sure she's a very nice lady, but the editorializing is making it confusing.
Eric says it's because it's been taught.
No. Wrong.
And people are not letting go of stuff.
No,
and it continues to be taught.
No, wrong.
It's not something, it's learned behavior is what it is.
Okay.
Well, it is learned.
That's exactly what it is.
It's learned because
I'm trying to look out for one of these questions. I don't have any idea what it is, who this is. Anyway, so who benefits from anti-Semitism? I'm going to still read that.
Well, the people who are doing it benefit, because otherwise they wouldn't do it. But in the end, nobody benefits from it, because he says it's the circle. He's saying the universe, what you give out, you get back. And even though it doesn't feel like the other side is getting their own medicine, he said it does come back. There's a thing called illnesses, diseases, and they have tragedy. It does come back. And he says we're at a time now where things are shifting in that, and Eric is saying people are going to say, oh no, there's stuff about the Jewish people that they're corrupt, or this, or that. And Eric says that is not what causes the hate.
Is it jealousy? Because it seems like long ago even Jews were considered successful bankers, doctors, lawyers, all that stuff. Is there class warfare here going on?
Well, Eric says, of course there's jealousy, but this is stories that continue to get told, So, and then also too, it's not that the Jewish people are 100% innocent. They're also
no group is.
They're also doing their share,
Bing, yes.
It's there. What it is Eric is showing me it all goes down to greed. He's showing me the word greed.
Almost everything does, which is very closely attached to fear.
Yes. Yes, that was a beautiful answer. Yes.
Having enough.
Very much so. Very much so.
Okay. Why were Jewish people chosen for this role of taking the brunt of people's hate and evil aggressions? First of all, is that true? Probably.
Well, yes, but there's other groups. See, the Jews right now, the Jewish people right now this is what we're noticing, but Eric says there are other races who have suffered tremendously.
Yeah, look at the blacks.
That's what Eric is
Look
showing.
at the Native Americans. I mean, that's true.
And
the
African people, in
Yes.
Africa, how, and all of that, and so Eric says it's not, and Eric says that stuff still is going on, but the spotlight is on the Jewish people and the Hamas and all of that. So we're not listening to all that other stuff, but all that other stuff is still going on.
Genocide is just awful.
Yeah.
God. Okay. Is it because wherever they go, they find a way to adapt and succeed, and this creates envy? I think that's partly true, but I don't know. What do you say, Eric?
Eric says, he says it's more than that.
It's more than that. Exactly.
One of the things he shows me is, and about the Jewish community, he's showing me they're all holding hands, like the chain has not been broken, because he's showing me like,
bing,
everybody has a hand, and the chain is because there's a very strong knit community within the community itself. And what happens is the more of this other hate stuff that's going on, the stronger it becomes.
Yeah, their unity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, why is there an acceptable double standard when attacking Jewish people or chanting from the river to the sea, which is the genocide of Jews, when it would never be accepted to say the same thing about blacks or Muslims?
It's not calling for the genocide of Jews. That's a lie.
Well, it's because this is, Eric says this is the focus right now, because I don't feel like he wants to tell me too much.
Okay.
But I feel like there's,
keep us safe. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like there's more to this fight, this war, than what's really being told.
True.
And we can't do it.
Right. Our government and other governments really know. And I just feel like and Eric says, you have some listeners that are pretty spot on with things as to why they're going on, what's going on there. But he says, this is what's going on. And the one thing he does want to say is that neither side is 100% innocent.
No, it never is. All right. When will anti-Semitism end, and what can be done to combat it throughout the world? I guess it comes from education for one thing, but.
Yeah, and Eric says the people have to want the education, because there's a lot of people that don't want the education. But he says where it starts is with you, and not you personally, but, with each individual. And, Eric has told me this since the beginning of COVID, that by 2035, we're going to see a big change on how things are. And he's really reiterating that again to me, and though he's telling me like there's going to be heavier consequences for these.
Okay. Good.
For this hate that's going around. And
that wouldn't surprise me at all.
Said there's going to be stricter, and I feel like they're already planning this here in the U.S.
Already
like stricter guidelines.
Enslaved.
Oh, good.
For you being able to come into the U.S. if you are associated with something, and somehow, I don't know how Eric says, but there's going to be more of that going on. But he says it's definitely going to take decades and decades to do this, to help change. I don't think we'll ever be 100% free of it, just because we're humans.
And that we're supposed to live the life of contrast. So,
right.
So what are the spiritual effects on the anti-Semite who has so much hate for an entire class or race of people? I mean, it must be a spiritual agreement, right? Contract, right? Or not? I don't know.
For some, for some.
Okay.
One of the things it's doing is it's bringing more awareness of what isn't, so that it's helping to expand in consciousness, and it's helping to crack open up our heart chakra, is what Eric says. It's really doing that, because we're not all just sitting around thinking this is fun. But Eric says some of it is, yes, some of them are come here to help bring this awareness by fighting on the other side of the fence, but then some of it isn't contractual. It's they made choices to be involved in
free
that.
will.
Yeah.
Okay. Does Hitler play any role in channeling his hatred of the Jews? Is he working with his current anti-Semitic population?
No.
No, you guys need to watch our Hitler
Wow.
interview, because it will shock you. He is
already
not what you
did.
guys think.
We
Yeah,
already
Eric says
did.
no, not at all. He's definitely not.
Okay, how does the current campus anti-Semite situation tie back to Amalek? Now, let me see, and there's one other question. Amalek were a people of the Negev and adjoining desert that were a hereditary enemy of Israel from wilderness times to early, oh, wait. Okay, let me see if I can find more. You must remember, Bibi said in Hebrew, you must remember what Amalek has done to you, says our Holy Bible, and we do remember. There are more than 23,000 odd verses in the Old Testament, the ones that it was basically a long history of being, I think Amalek were Arabs that killed a bunch of Jews. I don't know. I will punish the Amalekites, Samuel says to Saul, for what they did to Israel when they waylaid them as they came up from Egypt. Now go attack the Amalekites and totally destroy all that belongs to them. It almost sounds like the same thing that's going on now. Do not spare them. Put to death men, women, children, and infants. So yeah, fighting fire with fire. They kill us. Let's go kill them. Oh, we never learned.
Well, you know what Eric was just telling me while you're reading that? He says, one of the things that we're doing right now is we're healing a lot of ancestral types and stuff right now. Both sides, all of us are in our own way, but they are healing ancestral stuff and DNA stuff, ancestral stuff is what they're doing. And as you're like, remember and stuff like this, and Eric says, what they're doing is they're helping to clean this out, Of course, they're doing it the long way by fighting fire with fire, but they're getting to see what their work is doing, how it's causing so much pain. Because when one causes a lot of pain, the other one comes over and wants to cause a lot of pain. Because Eric is telling me both, I feel like he says both sides are doing a lot of torturing with people, like really hurting them and not doing right by them and stuff. So there's a lot of that going on. But Eric says it's hard to see it as this, but they're really helping to clean up their ancestral stuff that's going on.
Good. Clean up on aisle 5. All right, last question. And Dorit calls this the $1 million question. These last ones have been hers, several. What will be the outcome of all this hate and violent aggression aimed at the Jewish people around the world by so many Hitlers? What's going to be the ultimate outcome? You said it could be decades, but
Eric says, what's going to be the outcome of this is that over there in Israel, it's like they're going to be their own island, even though it's not an island. I know it's not an island.
Yeah.
But it's like they're going to be their own island where they kind of stay to themselves, even though that there's peace. The Israelis and that, even though they know that there's peace and stuff, they're going to stay. But it's also going to be known that and I feel like this is worldwide, where we're going to learn to stop talking about the past and stop bringing that into the front, because that is what's bringing all this stuff up. Is the stuff from the past the stuff from the past has not been healed, and that's why there's a continuous of this pain.
Yeah. Well,
And also with the Hamas, and all of them, they're gonna see, because Eric says the bottom line is each and every one of those fighters who are causing these wars, there is a heart there somewhere. There is someone close to them that's going to get harmed or, killed or whatever.
yeah.
And this is going to start shifting and changing things for them.
So Eric, the UN back in 1940 something or other, 5 or established the state of Israel. They said, we feel so sorry for what happened to you with Hitler that we're going to give you your own country. I'm wondering what would have happened if they didn't do that. If instead they just everybody just assimilate, be together, etc. Be neighbors, friends. Would we not have so much of this Middle East crap going on?
I don't know, because Eric says the reason why we said here, we're going to give this back to you because we feel so sad for what Hitler did. The way Eric is showing me, let me give you this piece back so you won't know what all we did. Because I feel like there was some crap behind all of what, there was a knowing, people involved in all of that knew what was going on. And so to save face, let me give you some of this so that you don't do anything.
They wanted it to go on, or they knew it was going on and just didn't do anything about it.
Right. So it was kind of like, let me give you this hush money.
Oh.
And let you have this. And Eric is telling me the Israelis knew that other countries knew that what was going on, and didn't do anything about it when things are being told.
FDR was a huge anti-Semite.
That was told, because I feel like the way Eric is showing me, it couldn't have gone to the degree that it got if people would have stepped in, because it wasn't all of a sudden like, oh my God, look what's happening to the Israelis. People were talking and saying and doing, and nobody did anything, is what he's telling me. Not just in the US, but other countries.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah.
But anyway, if they had said, just y'all, everybody mix and get along, breed with each other, would that have been a possible option? Or too much hate?
Well, Eric says that would have been great, but you would have had to, that would be the best outcome. But Eric is telling me it wouldn't have never happened though, because those other groups, and I say groups, governments, whatever you want to call them, knew what they were doing. It was it was like hush money is what they were giving them.
Anything else before we close, Eric?
He says more is going to be revealed about all of this. More is going to be revealed.
Good.
And don't believe everything that you hear on the news.
Yeah, exactly. Don't believe
And he
everything
says there are some of your listeners that really know a good portion of the truth behind all of this.
I'm telling you, my viewers are very savvy people, very spiritual people. I just adore them.
Yeah, and he says
more than I am.
Well, and he says that they're following their intuition, and they're like, that doesn't feel right. So they dig deeper and deeper and deeper. Yeah,
they do. All right. Thank you, Denise Ramon at DeniseRamon.com. Thank you, Eric.
Well, that was interesting. It wasn't exactly what I thought it was going to be about, but I did think that was interesting. I just want to take a quick look around their channel, guys, just to see what else they have lately. And if there's like a short one that might be good, or maybe I might just wrap up. I've got some other stuff to do. It's 11 o'clock, but I just want to look and see what other topics they've covered lately. I think this has been a really interesting experience. I'm glad I'm revisiting this channel. I definitely want to watch some more stuff on it. I definitely want to watch the woke movement stuff. I just don't want to watch an hour more tonight. So I'm going to add these to my watch later list. See what else they've got. Interview with a Neanderthal. That would be interesting to watch. What was it like to be a Neanderthal? Hang on, I'm going to save that. Lake and Riley, that girl that got killed by the immigrant. Toby Keith. I'm not interested in Toby Keith, but maybe some people are. They've got videos about manifestation, healing. Is Elon Musk a time traveler? Let's see. Mommy and daddy issues. That's funny. Predictions for 2024. That might be interesting to watch at some point. JonBenet Ramsey. Matthew Perry. North Korea collective consciousness. I'm definitely marking that one. That sounds interesting. Ooh, astral projection. We can do astral projection. Well, we're gonna watch that at some point. Jetafire just told me that I wasn't allowed to watch it without her. So obviously you guys can watch whatever you want, but Barbara Walters has like a 5-part series. David Bowie. Carl Jung. Oh, that could be interesting. What else do they have? Just going to scroll down a little bit more. The Hat Man and Shadow People? I wonder what that's about. Does anyone know what the Hat Man is? An afterlife interview with a cult leader? That would be interesting. Sinead O'Connor. Look, interviews with aliens. I know that I've watched the interviews with the Greys too. They did the interviews with the Greys a long time ago. Interviews with aliens, guys. People try to see the Hat Man when they're trying to fall asleep. That sounds accurate, bot. Thank you. Julian Assange. That'll be with like his higher self, obviously, because Julian Assange. It would be interesting to watch the Julian Assange thing and see if it talks about him being free. Jerry Springer. Kirstie Alley. J.R.R. Tolkien. I don't know who this person is. Oh, the Black Dahlia murder. Wow. Look, the Spanish Inquisition. They've got so much good stuff on this channel. All right. Well, I think that's good for tonight. This is definitely, I mean, there's just so much, there's years and years of content that can be explored on this channel. But I'm really glad you guys like hung out with me. I hope people found that interesting. Like I said, I've always learned a lot. Like and I haven't watched this channel in a while, but like when I was watching it, I was watching it all the time and I learned a lot from it. And this is kind of like really making me want to dig into it again. Because sometimes when you're watching this stuff, like you have like these insights about your life and stuff like that. And so I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. Jennifer will be back next week for the next episode of DISENRAGE, which is on Tuesdays at 9 p.m. And I am going to go take my leave and I'm going to go do other stuff. But I will be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern time for our regular show. And I hope everyone has a really good night, and we'll see you soon, guys. Bye.